Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series Rescue the Rockies. And our Rockies, who finished the 2033 season at 95 and 67, are in the playoffs for an eighth consecutive season. We've won the National League West for a fourth consecutive season. Only one World Series title over those previous 7 trips to the playoffs, so certainly hoping for a longer run in the playoffs this season than last year when we were bounced in the NLDS by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Thinking about finalizing our playoff roster, as we typically do in the postseason with the off day, is going to go with only 12 pitchers rather than 13. The odd man or men out, Brian Stoops, the youngster who was our 5th starter much of this season, finished with a 5-6 record and a 4.49 ERA. He was 1.2 wins above replacement. Ended up pitching much better in the second half of the season than he did in the first half of the season. So pleased with how the former first-round pick out of New Mexico State ultimately performed for us. But given that we're going down to a 4-man rotation and we've got a pretty good bullpen, figured that Stoops was the odd man out. The other guy we considered taking off was our former 5th starter, who Stoops actually took for, Isaiah Shader. Shader 6-6 with a 4.98 ERA this year, just a little bit above replacement level. But he is a more established arm, and he's kind of worked in that relief role for most of this season since he was replaced in the rotation by Stoops. Also do like that his stuff is a little bit higher quality overall than what we get from Stoops right now. Hopefully, since either of them would just be our long reliever and mop-up man, neither will be getting particular important action in the postseason, and this isn't a critical decision. Drew Romo, our starting catcher, is only 4 days away from being back from an injury, so since we've got the first round bye, the expectation is that he's going to be on the postseason roster. And we are going to make a change. Our backup catcher is going to become Mike Girard, the youngster, another former first-round pick who we brought up when Romo went out with the injury. Girard was our starter over the final few weeks of the season, and he was better offensively than we had hoped, hitting .276 and 58 at-bats. Ultimately was basically a league average offensive player when we look at his OPS plus and his WRC plus, and certainly brings a lot to the table defensively. Chris Boone, who had a solid, respectable offensive year for us as our backup catcher, was also close to a league average offensive player, just not quite as good defensively as Girard. And our thought is that Girard will actually be our starter against left-handed pitching, where at this point, even though he's not a particularly great bat, with Romo declining offensively, feel that although Romo will still be our everyday catcher against right-handed pitching, we're going to give Girard and his outstanding defense an opportunity against left-handed pitching. The addition to the team, given that we're moving from 13 to 14 players, that's probably the most surprising, is going to be Ramon Cantero, another guy who we brought up in September. The right-handed hitting outfielder looks like he should be proficient against left-handed pitching at this point, and that's the reason we're keeping him on the team, to be a corner outfielder or DH for us against left-handed pitching. Now you may be wondering why we're doing that, because he hit a ugly 179 in just 28 at-bats since we promoted him and was a below replacement level player. But we saw his ratings and the fact that he should be better against lefties than he is against righties. And in the admittedly small sample size of his performance, we did see that although the batting average was only 200 against lefties, he did hit 2 solo home runs and walk 4 times. So he put up a 154 WRC plus in that very little sample size against lefties. So he's going to make the team as well. We were fortunate that we did have an injury to a minor leaguer because if you were following closely, you would know that we didn't promote Girard to the majors until after September 1st when Romo got hurt. And he didn't happen to be on the 40-man roster until we promoted him then. So he wasn't originally eligible for the playoff roster. But fortunately, we took advantage of placing a player on the 60-day IL who had been hurt since September 1st as well, and that allowed us to make Girard eligible, and was a guy we really didn't even care about. Danny Balthazar had been on the 40-man roster. The 24-year-old left-hander actually was demoted this year from us from AAA to AA, but we did put him on the 40-man last offseason to prevent him from being picked up in the Rule 5 draft, and he happened to suffer a very major injury, shoulder inflammation, that was going to impact him for 4 to 5 months back on September 19th. So as we've been preparing for the postseason today, even though I think it would have been fine to have Boone on the roster, I do like the better defense that we get from Girard and think he might help us against left-handed pitching. So putting Balthazar onto the 60-day IL allowed us to make another player eligible for the playoff roster, and we did that with Girard. So that is what the roster is going to look like. We did, as we've talked about in previous episodes, have the opportunity to start a charity this year, which meant we've lost a lot of money this season, but we did move from pathetic to poor fan loyalty and bumped our fan interest temporarily up to 89, although it's regressed to 88 already, as the fans just don't seem to like winning in Colorado. Looking at where we are with, at this point, about a $13 million loss year to date and projected. If we get bounced in the divisional series, we're definitely going to lose money this year. If we make it to the NLDS, we'll probably be just about break even, maybe lose a little money, or if things go really well in terms of a longer series, more home games, and strong attendance, just eke out a small profit. And if we happen to make it to the World Series, we'll definitely have a profitable year this season. So a lot of variability as far as what the end financials for us will look like, but still have a chance of salvaging a profitable season even with that unexpected $16 million expense that we had late this year. And I mentioned that by virtue of having the second best record in the National League among division winners, we do have a first-round bye. We'll be facing off against the Diamondbacks, who were the leader in the NL West for much of this season, or the Brewers in our second-round division series matchup. The Marlins or the Mets from the NL East will be facing the NL East winning Washington Nationals in the other divisional series. The Twins or the A's will be up against the Rays, who had the best record in baseball. And then the Mariners or the White Sox will be facing off against the Texas Rangers. Last year, when we did crash and burn unceremoniously in the playoffs, we were a 116-win team. And although we are much worse this year with a 95-win season after that brutal 8-20 record in May, over the last 80 games of the year, starting July 1st, our record was 58-22. And that actually meant over the last half of the season, we were basically on pace for 117 wins, which obviously would have been the record since we tied the White Sox and the Mariners with 116 wins a year ago, and like them, did not do much, if any, damage in the postseason. We've got the best offense in the National League as the playoffs begin, and a very good pitching staff. And with the fact that we've clearly been the best team in baseball over the second half of the season, definitely have high expectations, and we'll find out shortly who we're going to face in the divisional series. And there was not a lot of drama in the 4 wild card series. 3 of them were 2-game sweeps. Both teams in the National League that moved on swept. The Marlins took out the Mets. The Brewers took out our division rival Diamondbacks. Over in the American League, the Twins took out the A's. And in the only series that went to a deciding third game, the White Sox took out the Mariners 2-1. So we will be facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Taking a look at the Brewers' 87-75 record this year, they were the National League Central Division title winners, and they were one of the few teams, given that we're a 95-win team, that had our number this season. The Brewers went 4-2 against our Rockies. Average offense for them, 675 runs, ranked 9th in the National League. But a pitching staff that's even better than ours. They allowed just 646 runs, which was second in the NL. Hopefully, we'll be able to take advantage of the fact that they did have to play 2 games, don't have their pitching staff set up quite as well as we think ours is. We have our strong Cy Young Award candidate, Noah Schultz, on the mound for the first game. The lefty, 15-5 with a 3.36 ERA this year, struck out 256 batters and led the National League in strikeout to walk ratio, FIP minus, and pitcher WAR. He'll be going up against the veteran Mike Burrows, who was 5-14 with a 5.29 earned run average for the Brewers this year. Burrows was a 2-time All-Star earlier in his career, but the right-hander at this point, slightly above a replacement level player. Definitely feel that this game number 1 is one that we absolutely must win, given that we've got a pitching matchup that seems to be strongly in our favor, and we are also playing it at home. So we'll go ahead and simulate. And we did get a 6-2 victory. Schultz with the W, Burrows with the loss. Got a home run from DH Ted Miller. Taking a look at the box score, the Brewers actually jumped out to a lead in the top of the second, 2-0. We came back with 2 runs in the third. RBI doubles from Marcelo Meyer and Drew Romo. So the back of the order coming through with us for us to tie things up. Added a couple more in the 6th. Colt Keith with an RBI single. And then a couple of insurance runs in the 8th on the way to a 6-2 victory. Not a ton of offense, only 8 hits. Everyone except for our leadoff hitter, Ezekiel Tovar, had a single hit in this game. Miller with 3 ribbies was the big offensive player for us. Schultz struck out 11 over 6 1/3 innings, so a nice start to the postseason for him. Justin Gibson and Luke Little combined for 2 2/3 innings of scoreless relief. Big crowd for us in Colorado, which will help financially. And we move on to game number 2. And looking at game number 2, this should be a much more even pitching matchup. We've got our number 2 starter, Leo Martinez, on the mound. 16-game winner for a second consecutive year, 16-7 with a 3.24 ERA. Led the National League with nearly 2/3 of his starts being quality starts and put up a 4.1 WAR for us. So the young right-hander, certainly a guy that we're very comfortable having on the mound. Milwaukee's going to have a young right-hander on the mound for them as well. Mike Windsor, the 24-year-old, was named to his first All-Star game this year, also known as the baby-faced assassin. He went 11-5 with a glittering 2.32 ERA. 5 WAR for him, so a very tough matchup for us. He was the 8th overall pick back in 2027. So with Martinez and Windsor, a couple of the best young pitchers in the game on the mound. Certainly a toss-up as far as the pitching matchup. Hopefully our strong offense and being at home will ultimately pay dividends for us and allow us to take a 2-0 series lead. Unfortunately, not to be the case. Windsor outpitched Martinez, so Milwaukee evened things up and seizes the home field advantage from us with the next 2 days being in Milwaukee, or the next 2 games being in Milwaukee. Did get a home run from the possible MVP, Kevin Roberts Jr. We took a 1-0 lead, but they chipped back with a run in the 3rd, added a run in the 4th to take the lead, extended it in the 6th with a run-scoring reach on an error by Mr. Martinez, which drove in a run. We chipped back in the 6th with a single from McElroy, but they added 2 insurance runs in the 8th on the way to a 5-2 victory. Couple hits for Miller today, but 8 hits overall once again for our Rockies. Martinez was not bad. 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 runs allowed, only 2 earned, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts over 5 1/3 innings. So he wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. Unfortunately, Joely Garcia, who we had traded for this year before the trade deadline, had a rough first postseason outing for us. Windsor, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts over 5 1/3 innings. Honestly, a very similar line to what Martinez put up. Martinez walked an additional batter, and Martinez gave up that unearned run on the error by Tovar. But other than that, a very similar pitching performance for the 2 guys who are on the mound. Unfortunately, Milwaukee strikes back at us in game number 2, and now it is a best out of 3 series. And as I noted, with the next 2 games in Milwaukee, Milwaukee has seized home field advantage from us, but hopefully we will be able to turn that around by winning at least one of the games here. We've got our number 3 starter, Dylan Jordan, on the mound. He had a exceptional year for us last year in his first year with the Rockies. Really kind of outperformed what we thought we were getting with him. This year, kind of more what we expected. 9-8 record with a 4.31 ERA. Still struck out close to 200 batters, had a 3.6 WAR, so he was a good pitcher this year, but not as dominant as he was a year ago. For Milwaukee, they'll be going with a 30-year-old right-hander, Cole Hertzler. Hertzler, 12-8 with a 3.27 ERA this year, put up a 2.7 WAR. So a good, solid season for him for Milwaukee, but certainly would think that this is a game we are more than capable of winning. And we do get the win 6-5. Looks like it went into the bullpen. Gibson with the win in relief. Luis Frias takes the loss. Wellington Herrera, our closer, with a save. We got home runs from Colt Keith and Gus Nieves. So the names that you would think would be hitting homers for us have hit the homers for us over these first 4 games, although nobody has multiple home runs yet. But importantly, we've guaranteed ourselves a Game 5 in a worst-case scenario, and it was a nice rally to come back. The Brewers led 1-0, and then they led 4-2 heading into the 6th. 2-run homer by Colt Keith in the top of the 6th to tie things up, and then a 2-run homer by Gus Nieves in the top of the 7th to give us the lead. They did score a run in the 9th, but too little, too late. Obviously, Nieves and Keith, with a couple of ribbies each on those 2-run homers, had the big blows for us. Marcelo Meyer, who was 4 for 4, drove in the other run. Tovar remains hitless throughout this postseason run so far. Jordan, not a perfect outing. 5 hits, 4 walks, 4 earned runs over 5 innings. Hertzler was a little better than Jordan, but not great. And we did get to Frias and Feltzman in their bullpen. Both of them gave up runs to us, while over the last 4 innings of our game, our bullpen allowed just 1 run by Herrera there in the bottom of the 9th. Marcelo Meyer tied the National League playoff record with 3 doubles in the game among his 4 hits. And we are now trying to clinch a spot in the National League Championship Series. We've got our number 4 starter, Andrew Painter, on the mound. The 30-year-old was 10-10 this year with a 4.80 ERA, about 3 wins above replacement. So relatively typical season for Andrew Painter, although he won fewer games and his ERA was higher than the last couple years. His WAR and his Sierra and his FIP minus suggest he was actually a little bit better on the mound this year. Gavin Stone, veteran righty, 34-year-old, on the mound for the Brewers. He started the year with the White Sox, and they signed him as a minor league free agent back in August. He went 0-1 in 6 games for Milwaukee, 3 starts with an ERA of over 9. He was below replacement level. My hunch is they may be using him as a starter, and he may only pitch an inning or 2. My hunch is they may also be bluffing us, and there may end up being a different pitcher on the mound. We will find out shortly, but certainly would think that this pitching matchup, if it is Gavin Stone starting, favors us at least over the first couple of innings. And we did get a 5-3 win. Painter with the W, Stone with the L, Herrera with a save for the second straight day. And the other guy that we expect would be hitting home runs for us, Ryan Stone, hits a homer for us today. So 5 home runs in the series for our Rockies. We actually gave up 3 solo home runs today that accounted for all the Milwaukee runs. But we got the series win. So after a disappointing loss in the divisional series last year to the Dodgers in 4 games, we take out the Brewers this year in 4 games to move on to the NLCS. Ted Miller, the young DH/outfielder, was your series MVP. Looking at the box score, a big first inning really drove us to the victory. Colt Keith with a 2-run double, and Roman Anthony with a 2-run double for us. He did not have a particularly productive season for us after we picked him up to give us a little more offense than Dean West was giving us in center field, and Roman Anthony did end up doing that. Dean West not even on the playoff roster since we chose to go with the youngster instead, as we talked about. But those 2 guys gave us a 4-0 lead. They did chip back with 2 in the 7th and 1 in the 8th. But added an insurance run in the 9th and held on for the 5-3 victory. Miami is leading the Nationals 2-1 at this point, so we'll be waiting to find out who we are going to face. Tovar finally with a hit, which was nice to see. A couple of hits from both Miller and Keith. And, of course, Keith and Anthony with the 2 ribbies each. Ryan Stone with the other ribby, obviously with the solo home run. Painter with the best outing we've gotten from a starter in this series, which is nice to see. 6 hits, 7 strikeouts, 2 earned runs over 6 1/3. Rich Hannon and Wellington Herrera combined to allow 2 hits over the final 2 2/3 innings. Stone with a very rough outing, 5 hits, 2 walks over 2 1/3 innings. He allowed 4 runs, but due to a very significant error by Cooper Pratt, all of those runs in the first inning were unearned. So those 2-run doubles came after a big error and likely with a couple of outs. So rough performance for the Brewers. They allowed just 1 earned run over 9 innings, and their season still comes to an end. And as we wait to find out who we'll be facing in the NLCS, we have cut our loss to the season to about $6 million, so basically cut it in half. So odds are, even if we don't make it to the World Series, with at least 2 home games coming up on possibly 3, we should be able to guarantee a profitable season for us and have a nicely profitable season, actually, if we're able to make it all the way to the World Series, which is certainly what we're hoping for. And the wild card Marlins, who finished 3rd place in the National League East, ended up taking out the 2nd place Mets in the division or the wild card series, and they did finish up a 4-game victory over the 1st place Nationals in the divisional series. So we'll actually have home field advantage against the 91-win Marlins in the National League Championship Series. So that's a positive step for us. The White Sox took out the Rangers 3-1, and the Rays, the best team in baseball this year, swept the Twins. So we've got home field advantage for the divisional or for the League Championship Series against the Marlins. I can't say these series names correctly for some reason. So the matchup works out pretty well for us. We've got our pitching staff completely set up, used our 4 starters in the 4-game series. Didn't need to go back to the number 1 starter, Mr. Schultz, for a 5th game. Had a little bit of rest, as the Marlins have as well, to be fair. So should be a pretty even series for us, and will be interesting to see what happens in the ALCS between the high-powered Rays against the Chicago White Sox. But as interesting as it will be to know who ends up representing the American League in the World Series, it's essentially irrelevant and not actually important to us unless we get there as well. So we will turn our attention now to our series against the Miami Marlins. And it's an interesting situation here, similar to the Brewers series. The Marlins actually had our number this season, going 4-2 against us in the 6 games that we played. Not surprisingly, given how strong we were in the second half of the season. I did look it up, and our games against the Marlins were an 0-3 homestand in April, and then we went 2-1 on them in Miami in June. So we did face them during the first half of the season when we were not playing nearly as well as we are playing today. The Marlins with a very good offense, 815 runs, ranked 3rd in the National League. That said, we're still better than them there. Not a great pitching staff, 722 runs against, ranks 11th. We rank 4th in the NL with 683. So although we're 7 spots ahead of them, we only allowed 39 fewer runs than they did. So it actually seems like the pitching in the National League is relatively clustered in terms of the amount of runs teams allowed this year, despite the fact that they took the series from us. When we look at how we're playing of late, when we look at where we ended up in the National League rankings in runs scored and runs against, and when we look at the fact that we have got home field advantage, certainly think that our Colorado Rockies should be favored in this National League Championship Series. Miami's going to be putting Pablo Garcia, outstanding 21-year-old right-hander who's the number 43 prospect in baseball, on the mound. 10-9 record with a 3.18 earned run average for Garcia, who put up a 2.8 WAR. Would have to think he will get some attention for Rookie of the Year. He is a fly ball pitcher, kind of only average at avoiding home runs, so we might be able to get a couple long balls from him. Interesting that Philadelphia traded him away just a year and a half ago, given that he looks like he is a very highly regarded prospect. Looks like he was a minor league find by Philadelphia, and Philadelphia traded him along with a starting pitcher, Andy Basora, who's already retired at 28, for second baseman Cody Schreier. I'm assuming Philadelphia in 2032 was looking for a decent infielder, but that seems like a very poor trade for the Phillies, given the profile that our scout in particular thinks that Pablo Garcia has. So going to be a good pitching matchup. We've got our left-handed ace, Noah Schultz, on the mound. As good as Garcia is, you would think that we would be favored at home with the lefty Schultz, who has those ground ball tendencies on the mound, versus the righty, who tends to give up some fly balls, and Pablo Garcia. But we'll see if we can turn that theoretical advantage on paper into an actual victory. And we do. A 4-3 win. Ended up going into the bullpens for the decision. Justin Gibson with the win. Wellington Herrera with another save. Daniel Ross, the Miami closer, or he's listed as a closer. I guess he's probably not really their closer because he only had 3 saves this past year. But he could be for the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe there's been some injuries. He takes the loss. We got homers from Trent Clausen and Gus Nieves. Presumably they moved to a left-handed pitcher at some point for Clausen to be getting an at-bat. Taking a look at the box score, the Marlins jumped out with a run in the second. Gus Nieves, who led the National League in home runs and ribbies this year for the 4th time in his 6-year career, a big 3-run homer in the bottom of the 5th to give us the lead. They did come back with a 2-run homer by Chastain to tie things back up in the top of the 6th. But a solo home run by Clausen off of Ross in the bottom of the 8th proves to give us the winning margin. 3 ribbies from Nieves, and of course the pinch hit home run from Clausen. The hits that accounted for all of our runs batted in today. No decision for Schultz. 93 pitches over just 4 2/3 innings. So he was actually good. He was striking out a ton of batters with 11 strikeouts over 4 2/3. So that perhaps pushed his pitch count up a little higher than ideal. Only allowed 3 hits, 1 run not earned because of an error by Colt Keith. So a nice performance by him. Adonis Valere is the one who gave back the lead when he came in. But fortunately for us, Justin Gibson and Wellington Herrera combined to allow just 1 hit, 2 walks, and no runs over the final 3 innings. Garcia, 5 hits, 3 walks, 3 runs, but none of them earned. So a big error by Echedri Vargas. So a lot of earned runs in this game, even though there were only 2 errors. And things work out in favor of our Colorado Rockies, who take a 1-0 lead here in the NLCS on the Miami Marlins. We'll move on now to game number 2 of this series. We've got our outstanding youngster, the righty Leo Martinez, on the mound once again for the second game of the series. John Meadows, 27-year-old lefty, listed as the starter. 10-5 record with a 3.07 ERA, put up a 3.5 WAR. So he is a good, solid lefty. I think he's the first left-hander that we've faced as a starter in these playoffs. He's also got ground ball tendencies, a little above average in terms of keeping the ball in the park. So he may be a good pitcher for Miami to have on the mound here in Colorado. Did have a rough outing in his previous playoff appearance or appearances. Would love to be heading to Miami up 2-0, but it looks like we've got another good pitching matchup here in game number 2. And we get another victory, 4-1. Martinez takes the win. Ross in relief with a second straight loss. That's rough for him. Wellington Herrera with a save for the second straight day. Home run for Colt Keith. Taking a look at the box score, they jumped out to a 1-0 lead. We tied it up in the 7th on a single by Tovar, and then added 3 runs in the 8th. Cantero, a run-scoring double. We talked about him. Only played 8 major league games as a rookie, and we still put him on the roster, and he was a guy who's going to be in the lineup against lefties, and he came through for us. And then a 2-run dinger by Keith to give us the 4-1 margin. couple of hits for McElroy, a couple of hits for Quintero, 3 hits for Keith, and Gerard making his first playoff start with a lefty on the mound, had a hit as well. So Martinez, a really nice outing, 9 hits, no walks, 1 earned run over 8 innings. The run that he gave up was a solo home run. Herrera was his 4th save of the playoffs, struck out 2, pitching a perfect 9th for us. And we've done what we hoped to do at home, taking a 2-0 lead over Miami in those first 2 games in Colorado. So we have flown across the country for game numbers 3, 4, and 5, if necessary, here in Miami. Obviously, would love to just take the series and have a little rest off before a potential appearance in the World Series. The White Sox are leading the Rays 2-0 over in the American League. But the minimum viable product is certainly to win one of these next 3 games in Miami to ensure that we're going home with a lead and with home field advantage and needing to just win 1 out of 2 games in Colorado. So clearly would love to just sweep our way through this series and sweep our way through the rest of the playoffs. But as long as we get one of these next 2 to 3 games in Miami, we will have done our job. The righty, Dylan Jordan, on the mound for us once again in game number 3. For Miami, 29-year-old lefty Grayson Grinsell, 8-10 with a 4.08 ERA. Did have a WAR of close to 4 this season, though, so a relatively solid season. Not the greatest stuff in the world, but he keeps the ball down, doesn't give up a lot of home runs. Rule 5 pick from Texas back in 2028, who has become a pretty solid pitcher for the Marlins. He was a Gold Glove winner a couple of years ago in 2031. With another lefty off on the mound today, he'll get to see McElroy, we'll get to see Clausen, we'll get to see Gerard, some different guys in the lineup, see if we can get another win against a lefty like we did in game number 2. And we do get the victory 7-2 for the first time in this series. Both of the starters involved in the decision. Jordan with the W, Grinsell with the loss. Kevin Roberts Jr., Matt McElroy, and Gus Nieves with home runs. And after that 7-2 victory, we are now on the precipice of a 3rd trip to the World Series with this Rockies organization. Jumped out with 3 runs in the top of the first, 3-run homer by the number 3 hitter, Kevin Roberts Jr. So obviously Rosnil DePaula and Ezequiel Tovar scored their runs after that hit. 2-run homer by McElroy in the 4th, and then added the 2-run homer by Nieves in the 8th after Miami had cut the deficit to 5-2. So not a ton of hits for us, but the ones that we had, we made count. The 3, 4, and 5 hitters against lefties, Roberts, Nieves, and McElroy, with the home runs for us that accounted for all 7 of the ribbies we had. Jordan, 4 hits, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts over 5 1/3 innings. He and Gibson both gave up single runs. Grinsell, 3 hits, 2 walks, but 5 earned runs over the 3 innings that he's pitched. So we made the base runners that he allowed count with the home runs that we hit. One of their relievers, Rick Hitchens, injured while pitching. And we are now 1 win away from a potential return to the World Series. Right now we're spending a little bit of time scouting the potential free agent class for this upcoming off season, not necessarily anticipating that we're going to have a ton of money to spend, but we will have some interesting options, as we always do. So trying to get ahead a little bit and ensure that we know the potential free agent class as well as possible. But clearly the key focus is the playoffs, and game number 4 today in Miami as we're going for a sweep. We've got the righty Andrew Painter on the mound. Taj Bradley, 32-year-old lefty, on the mound for the Marlins, 7-8 with a 4.89 ERA this season. we will see if we can end Miami's season today. We did already get the one win in Miami that we felt was the minimum we needed to do. Now we're going to get greedy, try to get the sweep, and hopefully have some time to rest up and have the rotation set up exactly the way that we want it for the World Series. And unfortunately, that won't be the case. Miami did bounce back, get the win today. Rich Hannon took the loss in relief for us. Another couple homers for Nieves. He now has 4 in the series, so a monster series for Gus Nieves. We scored 2 in the second, 2-run homer, or 2 in the first on a 2-run homer by Nieves. They came back in the bottom of the second with 3. 3 more in the top of the third with a 2-run homer by Nieves then. So we had a 5-3 lead heading into the fifth. Gave up a run in the bottom of the fifth, and then 2 in the seventh when Hannon was on the mound as Miami came back to avoid being swept. Nieves, of course, with a monster day, 3 for 3 with 2 runs scored and 4 runs batted in. Very little offense other than that. Tovar, Stone, and Keith had the only 3 other hits for our offense. Painter, not a great outing, allowed 4 earned runs over 5 innings. Bradley was not good as well, but Rich Hannon with a brutal outing, 6 hits and 2 earned runs over 2 innings through 37 pitches, and he takes the loss. So we head to game number 5 of the series. Definitely a little bit of a bummer that we've got to use our number 1 starter again, but the goal again is to get to the World Series. Would love it if we were only pitching 4 games each of those series to get there, so we could have our rotation completely set, but not to be the case. PCL Outstanding Pitcher Award goes to Bernie Barrera, who, of course, came up with us towards the end of the year and was pretty good with a 1.54 ERA over the 11 2/3 innings that he pitched. And one of his teammates, Ian Miller, 4-4 with a 3.62 ERA, finished second in the voting. Interestingly, Johan Oviedo, who's kind of a guy who we made as a minor league free agent signing a couple years ago, has been organizational depth for us at this point in his career, and Albuquerque also got votes. As we head into game number 5 and hope to finish things off with Schultz against Garcia today, I guess the good news is that Tampa Bay won game number 3 against the White Sox, so that series not going to be a sweep either. Obviously our hope, if we get to the World Series, is that those 2 teams play as long as possible, hopefully play a bunch of extra inning games, really stress their starters and stress their bullpens, but that's not our top priority. We can hope what goes on there works in our favor, but what we really control a bit is what will happen in our game. Schultz and Garcia, again, on the mound here in game number 5. The goal is to get this thing over and fly back to Colorado to potentially await the winner of Tampa Bay and Chicago. If Tampa Bay wins, we would be on the road for the first couple games of the World Series, but if the White Sox win, we would be hosting the first 2 games of the World Series. But we need to get there first, and we have still not done it. A 4-3 lead, 4-3 win for Miami cuts our lead in the series to 3 games to 2. They've definitely taken a bit of momentum from us, winning these last couple days. Another home run from Gus Nieves, who now has 5 in a dominant postseason series for him. Gibson takes the loss in relief. Dre Jameson with the win in relief for Miami. Another day where we had an early lead, 3-0 after 3 innings, run-scoring single, and then the 2-run homer for Nieves counted for all the runs. So he, in addition to the home runs, is generating the vast majority of our offense. But we gave up 2 spots in both the 5th and the 6th. 2-run home runs from Lopez off of Schultz, and then a 2-run home run from Cone off of Gibson. And the Miami bullpen did the job the rest of the way. So Disappointing performance, 3 hits from Roberts, 3 hits from Nieves, only 3 from the rest of the team. Schultz, not great, 4 hits, 2 walks, 2 earned runs, and an unearned run over 5 2/3 innings. Certainly wasn't bad, but obviously Gibson's disappointing performance and allowing the 2-run home run was the key thing there in the 6th inning that ultimately put us behind. Even though we lost, Gus Nieves named the player of the game, but still have more work to do as we prepare to head back to Colorado. And both of the league championship series are 3-2 as we sit here on Sunday, October 23rd. The road teams won every game in the American League. The White Sox took the first 2 in Tampa Bay, but the 105-win Rays rallied back, winning 3 straight in Chicago at this point. So they head to Tampa Bay up 3-2, and we head to Colorado up 3-2. Rematch of game number 2, which we won 4-1 with Meadows and Martinez on the mound. We won both of our games against lefties in this series, and those are the only 2 games we've faced left-handed starting pitching in these playoffs. So hopefully that trend continues today, and we wrap things up before going to a deciding game number 7. Because if we head there, the Marlins would have all the momentum with 3 straight wins. And fortunately, that is not the case. Our Rockies move on to the World Series with a 2-0 victory. Obviously, a big-time game from Martinez. Wellington Herrera with his 3rd save in the series. Mike Girard, postseason home run for the young catcher with the lefty on the mound. Meadows took the loss in the least shocking news ever. Gus Nieves is your National League Championship Series MVP. Take a look at the box score. Rockies picked up 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th on that 2-run homer from Girard, and that accounted for all of the scoring in this game. A great matchup from the pitchers. Also got a couple of hits from Tovar. Nieves with 5 of his 6 homers in the NLCS. He's got 14 ribbies thus far through the postseason. Martinez, 4 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and no runs over 6 innings. Gibson, Hannon, and Herrera combined for 3 innings of scoreless and hitless relief, allowing just 1 walk while striking out 6. Meadows was not bad, 4 hits, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts over 5 1/3. But the young catcher, Mike Girard, with the big blow, Leo Martinez with an outstanding pitching performance, and our Rockies are headed back to the World Series, and our Rockies are going to have made money this year as well. So set up pretty well as we try to win the 2nd World Series in Rockies history and the 2nd World Series in the course of this playthrough. The question is, will we be facing the mighty Tampa Bay Rays or the somewhat less highly regarded Chicago White Sox? And it seems like on paper we got the matchup in the World Series that should be more favorable for us. The road team won all 7 games in the American League Championship Series as the 91-win Chicago White Sox upended the 105-win Tampa Bay Rays. So what that means is we have home field advantage for the World Series. The 91-win Chicago White Sox were the American League Central champions. Of course, our 95-win Rockies were the National League Western champions. The White Sox 6th in the American League in runs scored, 5th in the American League in runs against, so a slightly above average team, both offensively and pitching-wise. But we scored 130 runs more than the White Sox did this year, although we actually allowed 4 more runs than they did, although we were ranked slightly higher in the National League than they were in the American League. And with the American League Championship Series having gone to 7 games and the fact that they were a day behind us in terms of their scheduling, Noah Schultz isn't even on normal rest. He'll be on extra rest for game number 1. The question is whether we'll want to pitch Leo Martinez on normal rest in game 2 or go with Dylan Jordan or Andrew Painter, who have both had a very extended time off at this point. I think my hunch, even though that doesn't seem to be what our manager is leaning towards, is to probably go with Martinez in game number 2. Although, honestly, if we wait for game number 3 with him on extra rest, that would still guarantee that we would see him twice in the series if we do go to 7 games. Somewhat dependent on what happens here in game number 1. We've got the outstanding Mr. Schultz on the mound for the White Sox, the 35-year-old veteran, 6-time All-Star, and 2027 AL Cy Young Award winner Hunter Brown on the mound. He goes out, pitches 34, 35 games every year, 12-8 with a 3.37 ERA and a 3.2 WAR this season. His extreme ground ball tendencies and ability to keep the ball in the park should play reasonably well in Colorado, so looks like a good pitching matchup. As good as Brown is, certainly would think that we would be favored with Schultz on the mound. We have won the first game in both series previously with Schultz on the mound, although we did lose game number 5 not that long ago in the NLDS when he started. And we get a monster win in game number 1, 23-3. Schultz with the win. Hunter Brown takes the loss. Somehow we scored 23 runs at home in Colorado despite having only 2 home runs. Nieves remains very hot. Ted Miller with a home run all as well. This is going to be a crazy looking box score, and our hope is that we forced the White Sox to really empty out and stress their bullpen, putting up those 23 runs. But just a monster performance. Crooked numbers for 6 straight innings for us. 5 in the second, 2 in the third, 2 in the fourth, 2 in the fifth, 7 in the sixth, and 5 in the seventh. The White Sox actually took a 2-0 lead on us in the top of the first, but we had a 7-2 lead by the top of the fourth when they scored their only other run on the day. Ridiculous 25 hits for our Rockies. Taking a look, Ryan Stone with only 1 hit was the underperformer. Everyone else had at least 2 hits on the day. 4 from Ezekiel Tovar. Kevin Roberts Jr., 5 for 5 with 3 runs scored and 5 ribbies. 4 ribbies from Nieves, 4 runs scored from Ted Miller. So everyone on the team hit a hit, at least 1 hit. Everyone on the team scored at least 2 runs, and everyone on the team drove in at least 1 run in what was just a monstrous offensive outburst. Kevin Roberts Jr. with 3 doubles, the 2 home runs that we talked about, a lot of other doubles as well, Romo, Meyer, and Colt Keith. Schultz, 6 hits, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, allowed 3 earned runs over 5 innings, so it wasn't a vintage performance, but didn't need to be. Hunter Brown just went an inning and 2/3, and they did use 6 relievers, including Max Fried, who's a 39-year-old reliever for the White Sox at this point. They used 6 relievers, and they all threw at least 22 pitches, so that is probably not going to be a great situation for them. Roberts Jr. Tied the NL playoff game for record doubles with 3, also ties the record for hits with 5. Ted Miller ties the record for runs with 4, and they also suffered an injury to DJ Gladney after being hit by a pitch, but just day-to-day with a bruised shin, so that's unlikely to have a very major impact on the series. But can't ask for a better start to a World Series than a 23-3 victory at home. I mean, I guess you could hope for a 24-0 victory. Looks like our manager is inclined to go with Dylan Jordan today. Honestly, with a 1-0 lead, I don't mind giving Martinez a little bit more rest. And then if we did get to a situation where we faced a winner-take-all game number 7, we would have a guy that we are very comfortable with on the mound in Martinez. Taking a look at the pitching staff, it looks like we're set to go with Jordan here. I will defer to our manager on this one. I don't think it can hurt to give Martinez an extra day of rest. Blake Larson, the lefty, on the mound for the White Sox, 4-3 with a 3.75 ERA this year. We've done really well against lefties. He does have ground ball tendencies, but see if we can take a 2-0 lead on these White Sox after battering them yesterday. Certainly would think if we can get Larson out of the game early and get into that bullpen, which is probably tired, that would work in our favor. And we get an 8-6 victory. Hannon with the W. Our old buddy Jesus Luzardo takes the loss in relief. Rosniel DePaula and Trent Clausen with home runs. And another game with a lefty starter, another win for our Colorado Rockies. This one went into extra innings, so we have put a lot of stress on their bullpen, I'm sure, although they will get an off day today. 5 runs in the fourth inning, in the bottom of the third inning gave us a 5-1 lead headed to the fourth. They bounced back to tie things up with 4 in the seventh. That's when Gladney hit a 3-run home run. They actually took the lead in the eighth. Gerard with a run-scoring single in the bottom of the eighth to tie things up. And then Rosniel DePaula, 2-run home run in the bottom of the 12th to walk things off and send us on our way to Chicago, feeling really good about this team with a 2-0 lead. 3 hits for DePaula, 2 for Tovar, Keith, and Gerard. Of course, 3 ribbies from Clausen by virtue of that big home run for him. Jordan, 3 hits, 2 walks, 4 runs, 3 earned over 6 innings. Larson did have a rough outing, 57 pitches, only went 2 1/3, and we ended up facing 7 relievers today. So Chicago definitely going to be looked to take advantage of that day off tomorrow to hopefully give their bullpen a little bit of rest. We used 4 relievers as well, Gibson, Little, Herrera, and Hannon, so the day of rest will not hurt us either. But feel real good that we're heading to Chicago with the 2-0 lead, and we're going to have Leo Martinez on the mound for game number 3. So a similar situation for us as the National League Championship Series. We head on the road with a 2-0 lead. Minimum viable product is to get at least 1 win in Chicago, and in a worst-case scenario, be heading home to Colorado with a lead in the series. Looks like we're going to have a very interesting pitch-up matchup. We know Martinez is really good for us, 2-1 with a 1.40 ERA in these playoffs. Jerry Gomez, 4-0 with a sub-2 ERA for the White Sox. The 24-year-old right-hander has really good stuff. He was 13-6 with a league-best 221 strikeouts and a 67 FIP minus this year, putting up a 5.5 WAR for the White Sox. So real good pitching matchup here with a couple of outstanding youngsters. And we get the advantage, a 5-1 win. So for a second straight series, we've taken a 3-0 lead. Martinez with the W, Gomez with the loss, Herrera with the save. In the least surprising news ever, Gus Nieves continues an epic run through the playoffs with another home run. And with a 5-1 victory here in game number 3, our Rockies are on the precipice. Took the lead in the second after trading runs in the first on an RBI single from Tovar, and then a 2-run homer from Nieves in the fifth gave us a 4-1 lead, added an insurance run in the top of the ninth. 4 hits from Tovar, 3 hits from Miller, 2 each from Roberts Jr. and Nieves in the game. Martinez, 8 hits that were scattered over 5 1/3 innings, allowed just 1 run, which was not earned after a rare error from Tovar. Struck out 3 and dropped his ERA in the playoffs to an outstanding 1.09. Gibson and little pickup holds. Herrera with his 6th save of the playoffs. Gomez, 10 hits and 4 runs, all earned over 6 1/3 innings. Ezequiel Tovar, despite the error, named the player of the game. And our Rockies, after flaming out in the playoffs with a record-tying 116 wins in the regular season in 2032, are now just 1 win away from atoning for that postseason failure. Andrew Painter, the veteran right-hander, on the mound, trying to pitch the Rockies to a World Series championship today in game number 4. For the White Sox here on Halloween 2033, the 27-year-old righty Dioris De La Rosa on the mound. De La Rosa 3-6 with a 3.80 ERA and a WAR of close to 2 for the White Sox this year. Can our Rockies sweep our way to a World Series championship? The answer is yes. So a 4-game sweep for the Colorado Rockies here in the 2032 World Series. Wellington Herrera with the win in relief. Hannon picked up a save. Home run from McElroy. Kevin Roberts Jr., the 25-year-old who we have given the nickname recently of 5 Tools to, as some of you have noted, with his outstanding performance. He has become a captain personality over the last couple of months, and he now adds a second World Series MVP award to his rapidly improving and growing resume. 2 World Series championships for the Rockies in these past 3 seasons, and the young outfielder, 5 Tools, Kevin Roberts Jr. was your MVP both times. Take a look at the box score for game number 4. The White Sox actually jumped out to a 3-0 lead on us after 4 innings, chipped back with 2 in the 5th, run-scoring double by Roberts, the big blow there, tied things up in the 8th. Actually, no, we didn't tie. We did tie things up in the 8th, but it wasn't Roberts Jr. He actually hit into a double play. Roman Anthony with an RBI single to tie things up. And then in extra innings in the top of the 11th, McElroy with a solo home run, the big blow there. 5 runs, 13 hits, no errors for the Rockies. 3 runs on 8 hits and an error for the White Sox. 3 for 6 today with a couple of ribbies from Roberts, Anthony, and McElroy, obviously, with the other runs driven in. A couple of hits for Miller, 3 hits for Roman Anthony, and what will likely be his last game as a rental for the Colorado Rockies. Painter, 6 hits, 3 walks, 3 earned runs over 4 innings, so he wasn't great, but our bullpen was absolutely incredible. We got a total of 7 innings out of Jackson Peavy, Justin Gibson, Wellington Herrera, and Rich Hannon. And over those 7 innings, they allowed 2 hits, no walks, no runs, while striking out 6. So the bullpen that we had invested in so heavily this past off season helps us through the playoffs. The holdover closer Herrera and the holdover setup man / stopper Gibson involved, and two of the additions, Jackson Peavy and Rich Hannon, also involved in that great performance from the bullpen in this final game of the 2033 season. De La Rosa was injured with a calf strain. He actually was really good over the 3 2/3 innings that he pitched. After that, kind of fell apart a bit for the White Sox. Gabriel Jackson gave up a couple of earned runs. Manuel Castro gave up an unearned run, and then Victor Garcia gave up the final 2 runs in the 11th inning as the Colorado Rockies claim the 2033 World Series. So turning to our financials, I ended up making close to $10 million after some additional gate receipts in the World Series for us. Our budget this past season was $256 million. We'll find out when the offseason begins tomorrow whether that number will be higher or lower. Only got a 4-point boost in fan interest from winning the World Series, so that's a little bit disappointing, but certainly the fact that we still have that poor fan loyalty probably didn't help us. But with 2 World Series titles in the past 3 years and 8 consecutive playoff appearances, certainly would have hoped that the loyalty would be better than poor and the fan interest would be off the charts. But we've been digging out of that 2025 hole from the Colorado Rockies, as well as their pretty poor performance for most of the decade before that, over the course of the 9 years that we've been in charge of this team. And a very nice season for our World Championship Colorado Rockies team. We do have the trophy that we really care about with the flags on it, although I think we are going to have some pretty strong contenders for the Most Valuable Player award this year in Kevin Roberts Jr. and Gus Nieves, who are both trying to win the second MVP awards of their career. And I think that when we think about Cy Young awards, Noah Schultz has a pretty solid chance at winning the third Cy Young award of his career, which would be his first here with the Rockies. So we turn our attention now to some initial information on the regular season, on the beginning of the offseason. And you can see some good headlines here. Fan loyalty increases from poor to below average. So stinks to be below average, but when you consider that we started this season at pathetic, it moved up to poor after we made that $16 million investment in starting a charity, and then the World Series title moved us to below average. That's definitely good progress there. Big decision on Drew Romo, $12 million team option for him next year. He's 32 years old. He's fragile physically, and he has been deteriorating rapidly in terms of his offense and his overall production, despite the fact that he remains a very talented defensive catcher. But could be time to turn that over to Mr. Girard. Also, another interesting decision, $10 million option on Colt Keith. Hit .266 with 13 homers and 56 ribbies for us this year. He's stabilized that third base position for us the last couple of years after we moved on from Adail Amador. Basically been a slightly above average offensive player, putting up a 1.5 to 2.5 WAR for us for these past couple seasons. But depending on what happens with the budget, that could determine how willing we are to bring back either Romo or Keith. Review of our season goals. Unbelievable work as far as our team record. Glad that we brought in Brian Stoops as a local homegrown player, even though we had already drafted him. It was just a matter of him becoming a major leaguer. Still not pleased with us in our fan interest. Don't know, other than 8 consecutive playoff appearances, 3 trips to the World Series, 2 World Series titles, what we could be doing to improve fan interest more than we have been, but he's still not happy with us there. Not happy with what we've done with international amateurs, and gave us 5 years to bring another trophy, and we've completed that now. Happy with our performance, accomplishing goals, delighted with our overall performance. New goals going forward: win another championship, increase our attendance. Final total balance of $29 million, so he wants us to make some money. That could be an interesting sign as far as where our budget might be going. Increase fan interest, improve international amateur fines, and I guess earn another championship on top of the one that we have to do next season in the next 5 years. So pretty lofty goals from Mr. Monfort. And we've won 2 World Series for Mr. Monfort, and both times he has cut our budget following. So we go from a $256 million budget to a $242 million budget, despite winning the World Series and picking that fan loyalty up 2 notches over the course of this season. So that almost certainly means that Romo is gone, and it probably means that Colt Keith is gone as well. Take a quick look at the front office page, and if we cut scouting and player development in by more than half of what they were a year ago, that puts us in a position where we basically just have a tiny bit of money available next year. So a very difficult financial situation for us with that significant decrease to the budget of $14 million following a World Series championship. So that's definitely disappointing to see. But as I noted, right now the $12 million for Romo and the $10 million for Keith are both baked into that, so we can free up some money moving on from them. I guess the concern is that Romo is an extremely popular player, so that's a potential hit to fan interest moving on from him. But with the financial situation that we're in, may just be one of those things that we need to suck up and deal with. Marcelo Meyer and Luke Little are the most notable players who are set to become free agents. And then the additions of Roman Anthony and Jogli Garcia, who we rented for the stretch this year, are expected departures that we never really planned on keeping around for the long term, but could conceivably be losing our starting catcher, our starting second baseman, our starting third baseman, a very important reliever in Luke Little, and then another reliever in Jogli Garcia, and a guy who played center field for us against righties over the second half of the year in Mr. Anthony. So some potential significant turnover coming to this Rockies team, and given the fact that we are not necessarily in a great financial situation, might just be something that we have to deal with. But at least we will be dealing with those decisions from a position of strength on the field, having won a second World Series championship in the past 3 years. But definitely not impressed with the generosity of the Monforts in ownership, given the success that we've had on the field. As I noted, 8 straight playoff appearances now, 3 World Series trips in the last 4 years, and 2 World Series championships. Not typically a resume that would lead to a pretty material $14 million cut to the budget. But it is what it is, and we will deal with the ramifications of that decision in the coming episodes as we start thinking about the off season. Next time around, we will do our full roster review on the season and start formulating a more specific plan on some of the decisions that we might be making. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.